Hi everyone, my name is Hannah Johnson and I am the Educational Courseware Representative at Hawks for Northeastern State University. And your department chair, Dr. Kirk, had asked that I share some information about the Hawks online software with you all. So I wanted to walk through the student side of our software together and give you a good picture of the functionality that Hawks has to offer. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and begin with this toolbar at the top of the screen. Beginning with grades, this is where your students can see any of their Hawks grades. So that's any kind of homework, quizzes, or tests that they complete within the Hawks software. But we do also integrate with Blackboard to provide grade and roster syncing as well as single sign-on for your students so they don't have to sign in both places. And then beside that, we do have this eBooks tab. That's where the online textbook for the course would be housed. Under discussions, we do have a live chat as well as a discussion board, which offers further communication within the courseware. This bell is our internal alert system, so it notifies students of high priority assignments. So that's what's due today, due tomorrow, or past due. And if your student clicks this drop-down menu, they'll see the course that they have items due in, how many items are due, and then they can simply click on that link to go directly to those assignments. And then this envelope is our internal messaging system. So it acts similarly to an email, but it's within the Hawks courseware. These messages can be forwarded to school or personal emails. And you can also set up what we call automated assignment reminders here. So that will send out message reminders directly from you to your students to prompt them to complete any assignments that they have that are upcoming or might be past due. And then in this dropdown, I will first point out live tutoring. This is where we have partnered with a company called Wisant to give your students a free 1 hour credit of tutoring with a subject matter expert. They can use that 1 hour credit however they would like to, whenever they would like to. So it could be short 5-minute sessions, it could be 2 30-minute sessions. However they feel they'd like to utilize that, they can. And then below that, we do have live support. So this is where you or your students can access our live chat assistance that's available 24/7, and it contacts you directly to our technical support team. So if you have students who are working maybe at 2 a.m. and need that additional technical assistance or having navigation issues, they can certainly use that method to contact us. We do also have phone support hours Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you or your students give us a phone call, you will get a live person that answers the phone within the first 4 rings. So that's our company policy here at Hawks. And then taking a look at the course that the student is enrolled in, they can see their school, instructor, and section listed here, as well as a mini to-do list, which highlights their upcoming assignments and breaks them down into this timeline of due today, due within a week, and due later. They can directly click onto one of these assignments from this screen, or they can click this blue View Course button to see a comprehensive to-do list of their assignments. So this list will further display their homework assignments and any quizzes or tests that you might assign to them. This is completely customizable to you as the instructor. So these headers of due today, due within a week, and due later were automatically generated by Hawks, but can certainly be customized by you depending upon whether you like to teach your course by units or by topics. Those can be reflected here. And then you can also adjust the ordering of the lessons below each of those headers to be reflective of how you like to teach your course. And then once the student is ready to begin working on an assignment, they'll simply click the lesson name. And for every single lesson with every single Hawks product, the student will see the same exact page with these modes of learn, practice, and certify. So we keep this interface very simple and consistent across the board so that the student knows exactly where their resources are, exactly where their homework assignment is. And we also want to prompt them to follow this recommended learning path that you see here. So learn and practice are intended to prepare students for certify, which is that homework assignment that they would complete for a grade. Beginning with Learn, this is a multimedia presentation of the instructional content. So this is the exact same content that the student would see in the textbook or in the ebook for this title. We have also provided rules, properties, definitions, interactive examples, and video resources within this Learn mode. So the first resource that I'll point out is this watch button at the top left-hand side of the screen. This opens the student up to what we call a lesson level video. So it shows an actual instructor narrating the key concepts from this particular lesson. These are typically about 5 to 10 minutes long, so they're just a brief synopsis of what's being covered here, and a great reference if you have students who are coming out of class time and just need a brief refresher of what was covered during that time. All of our videos are closed captioned, and this link to Hawks TV is actually an open source video library, which contains every single video from every single title that Hawks offers. And then as I scroll through here, the second type of video that your students would see within this learn mode is what we call an example level video. So again, it's an actual instructor working out the exact examples that are shown on this page to your student. So again, if the student is coming out of class time and doesn't remember how a particular example was solved, they can reference one of these videos to see the exact steps that are worked out to get to a correct solution. Right. Now, coming out of learn, we'll move on to practice. This mode is just that. It's a practice environment for the student to work with similar question types that they'll be seeing within that certified homework assignment. All of the questions within Hawks software are algorithmically generated, so students can actually see different versions of the same question type. So right here to demonstrate that, I'm going to click this try similar button at the bottom right-hand side of the screen. And what you'll notice is that the numeric values for this question will change. However, the concept that the student is being asked about does not. Essentially, what we want to provide them with here is an unlimited amount of practice on an individual question type so they can feel prepared to answer that within that certified assignment. And I'm going to go ahead and enter an answer so that we can see some feedback that your students would receive as they're entering answers into this software. So right here, when I click submit answer, as with any software, the student is told this is correct or this is incorrect, which is immediate feedback that's very helpful for the student rather than waiting a day or so to get a pencil and paper assignment returned to them. However, within Hawks, we have taken that feedback one step further to provide the student with an explanation as to why we are telling them that answer is incorrect. So on this bottom right-hand side of the screen, you can see that I can simply try this question again if I already know maybe what mistake I made. But if I don't, I can click this explain error option. So within my explain error, I'm reminded of my question, and it's the same version, so not any different numeric values here. I'm reminded of the answer that I was submitted. And then I'm walked through an exact breakdown of my answer to see which part of this answer is incorrect. So right here with this inequality sign, I'm told this inequality should be used for the null hypothesis. Remember, the alternative hypothesis represents the claim being tested. We want this feedback to be similar to feedback that you would give your students if you had the time and ability to be beside every single one of them as they were working through every single one of these questions. And we also do want to stop the student as they make this mistake to prevent them from ingraining it into their memory and making it over and over again. So the student can directly use this feedback to return back to the question and get to that correct solution. Opposite of this try similar button on the bottom right-hand side, the student can also skip over questions in this practice mode, allowing them to really spend their time and effort where they feel they need to with these particular question types. And then on this bottom left-hand side, Send to Instructor is an optional feature that you as the instructor can turn on or off. So if it is on, the student can click that button and the software will take a screenshot of the exact question the student is struggling with so that they can send it to you for any additional help that they might need. And then lastly, we do provide a tutor feature to the student if they really don't know where to begin with a question or need a breakdown of the process. So our tutor feature will open the student up to a step-by-step process that takes them through the exact steps that they need to get from question to solution. And again, if the student just really doesn't know where to start with a question or maybe has the first step but needs additional steps provided to them, they can click this display step answer option, and they can see the correct answer for this particular step, and then continue working through the next steps of the process on their own. Within our explain error and our tutor features, the student can also use this learn tab at the top right-hand side of the screen to toggle back to that learn mode and watch a helpful video or review a similar example that might be beneficial in helping them solve the questions that are in this practice mode. And lastly, the student is provided with a fully worked out solution for every version of every question within this practice mode. If they've already worked out this question on their pencil and paper scratch work, they can utilize the solution to hold up that scratch work directly to the screen and see which point they might have made a mistake. And then coming back out to practice, if they have seen the correct answer here, we will prompt them to try a similar version of the question or go on to the next question. And lastly, the final mode that we have to work with here is our certify mode, which, as I mentioned, is the homework assignment that the student would complete for a grade. The certify mode looks very similar to the practice mode. It has the same question types. However, they are different versions. But there are two key differences between our practice and certify modes that we like to highlight here. The first key difference is that we remove learning aids within this certify mode. So the student doesn't have the option for tutor, send to instructor, skip, or try similar anymore here. The reason that we remove those learning aids is because we oftentimes find students leaning and depending on them so much that they become a crutch to the student. And then when it comes time to work with a quiz or a test and those crutches are removed, the student actually has a false understanding of where their knowledge is at with these concepts. So we want to go ahead and create an environment for them that emulates any kind of quiz or test that they might create, but we want to make it low stakes so that they can actually develop that foundational understanding of these concepts during that low stakes environment. And then the second key difference within this certify mode is that the assignment is made mastery based. So what that means is the student is given a set number of questions. Of those questions, they can miss a few of them and still pass this assignment. However, they must get about 80% of the questions correct in order to pass. Now, whenever I say pass here, the student is given 100% credit for demonstrating mastery and completing competency on these topics. As the instructor, you can change the number and types of questions within our practice and certify modes. And you can also adjust that mastery level from 80%, which is our default at Hawks, to whatever you feel it should be for your students. So taking a look at this particular lesson that we're in, at this top toolbar, I can see that I have 10 questions. And then taking a look at this orange heart at the top right of my screen, I can miss 2 of those questions and still pass this assignment and demonstrate mastery on these topics. However, if I do miss that third question here and dip below my set mastery level, the software is going to take me out of this certify mode, place me back into that practice mode, where I'm then given a customized set of questions for targeted remediation based on the questions that I missed in the certify mode. So that is the adaptive component of Hawk software that allows students the opportunity to go back and practice the individual question types that they were missing and work with their individual skill gaps. And at any point in time, the student can return back to certify with absolutely no penalty as long as it's before your specified due date. And they have an unlimited amount of attempts to come back into this certify mode and demonstrate mastery on these topics. We do this for 2 conjoining reasons. The first is a motivational approach for the student. We want to say, it might take you multiple attempts, and we don't want to take away that credit of 100%. So they always know that they can get that in the grade book and they can take as many chances as they need. However, we do still want to hold them to that higher standard of learning by saying you will need to show that you have competency on 80% of the concepts that are being presented here in this lesson. And following our certify mode, there are several key additional highlights that I want to point out in this software. The first is that we do provide the student with the ability to create their own practice test. So the student can come under this web test feature, click practice web test, and then create the test by entering a test name. They can choose from any chapter in any lesson here. So it can really emulate any kind of cumulative quiz or test that they might be taking. They can enter a number of questions, and they can also set a time limit to emulate a test that they might be taking during class time. And then once I click start here, the interface that you see right here is the exact same interface that the student would see for any instructor created quiz or test. So it creates a very useful practice environment for them to know where they can click, how they can access questions. They can go back and forth between questions here. They can also click this question drop-down menu, and they can hide any questions that they've answered, and they don't have to go in a linear order with these questions. So they can actually click around and go to questions that they haven't worked with yet. Lastly, they can hide the time of this test if that's a point of anxiety for them as well. After they click submit assignment here, the student is taken to a results page, which will show them how many questions they answered out of the total correctly. This blue review button will take them to their incorrect answers, provide them with that explain error feedback and full solutions, just as they saw in that practice mode. And lastly, they're given a breakdown of their performance on an overall basis, as well as a breakdown of their performance on a per lesson basis. So using this per lesson bar graph, they can actually see which questions they would have missed the most questions in for particular lessons that were added. So right here, I can see that for lesson 2.1, I have more of this pink color, which means that I got incorrect answers here. So I can actually click this bar graph, and this will take me directly back to the practice mode for lesson 2.1. So ultimately, this practice test will help the student to really identify where they need to spend their time studying as they're preparing for any quizzes or tests that they'll be taking. And then once the student has finished in this practice mode, they can click exit practice, and it takes them right back to that review page so that they can practice any other lessons that they might need to from this practice test. And lastly, I do want to point out this materials tab, which is where you can build a virtual library of additional resources for your students. So these can be files, URLs, websites, videos, anything you want to add here. There's no limit as to how many resources you can provide. And Hawks automatically does provide a statistics companion site for this title, which does include a list of data sets. Some are accompanying the Discovering Statistics and Data textbook, but some are also miscellaneous. We do provide the student with technology instructions for several different statistical platforms here. So depending on the ones that you use in your course, your students could reference these instructions as they're working with particular topics from this title. Chapter projects are also provided for every single chapter within our Discovering Statistics and Data title. And lastly, we do also provide additional resources for data visualization and data analysis under this companion site as well. And if any of you would like further information on these resources or to learn more about our instructor resources, I'm happy to meet with you and address any of those questions that you do have or provide further information. And I'm also happy to ship any of you copies of these materials if you'd like to review the physical text further.